Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve.
So Justin, welcome to today's episode.
Scott, man, I'm excited about it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Absolutely. And, again, it was such a fun time being on yours and, how we originally connected through 6 Degrees of Separation with Brooks and everyone else that we know. But you're doing so many amazing things, being this top podcaster and speaker. And I loved what you shared with me in the pre-show when someone asked you, how should I be introduced? And you just wrote back, Justin, ? And that's the thing. We're all just people. And sometimes people need labels of what we need to go by. And I love how you show up each and every day. And, before we talk about the events that you do and the podcast that you have and the amazing individuals that you've had the opportunity to engage with, how did Justin get to where he is right now? So what would you say were some of the impactful moments that you experienced in the journey that you've taken so far?
Dude, that's a phenomenal question. When I look back, there have been so many. But if I go all the way back to the start, I look at me as a high school student. I jokingly say that if there's a senior superlative for least likely to succeed, that would be me. I had a 1.7 GPA at one point. That wasn't the whole 4 years, but at one point had a 1.7 GPA. My mom was in the middle of a 20-year opioid battle, and my dad was in jail. And I look at that, and I think people would look at me and say, "You've got no shot, kid." And there's a certain time in my life where I believed that. And, at the age of 19, I got into selling Cutco knives, direct sales, which we touched on briefly right before you hit record. And that was kind of my introduction into self-development. And before self-development, I looked at myself and said, all I know is I don't want what my parents have. I want something better. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to do it. And when I got introduced to self-development, I was like, wow, there's opportunity to create my own path and to kind of forge my own road. And actually at that time, it was that summer, the first summer I was a manager with Cutco Knives, I had a representative come up to me and say, Justin, I probably would have made more money working at McDonald's, but because of you, my life is completely different, and I know where I want to go in life. And it was from there where I was like, that's it. There was like this feeling deep down inside of me that said, that's what you're going to do. That's what it is going to be. Now, I didn't know what that was. And fast forward until I was 30 at this point, when I launched the podcast, that was the vehicle. And in between there, there's failed businesses we can talk about. There's corporate success. There are all these great things and terrible things kind of connecting it all. But it ended up with, hey, I'm going to launch this podcast that is heart-centered to hopefully help people along the way. And it became the catalyst for so much, which was all those things you talked about, the events, the speaking, the amazing connections, and everything in between.
It's one of those things that you and we have so much in common with our fathers and having a fallout with our fathers and then reconnecting later. But also the introduction into entrepreneurship through the means of direct sales and network marketing. And, it's almost like, like we talked about in the pre-show, that the gateway drug to entrepreneurship, because I remember so distinctly being on such autopilot in my life as a trainer. And I remember when I first started, with Isogenics, I had this fire lit under me that I hadn't felt in years because it was new and it was exciting. And I'm like, I love this. I can do this. I can get behind it. And there's something that you also mentioned is, climbing the ladder. And I love what Arnold Schwarzenegger says. He says, you can't climb the ladder of success with both hands in your pockets. And it's so impactful. And, you've had your ups and downs. I've had my ups and downs. And I always believe that your failures always open the doors to your successes. So there's a lot that we can go into, but with what's on your heart most, what would you say has been the greatest learning experience failure-wise that really kicked open that door to stepping into this life of success and fulfillment and accomplishments that you've been having recently?
Yeah, man, that, I can go in so many different directions with that too, because there have been different business failures in my life and everything like that. But, I could go in the direction of, with one of my companies, understanding your market, right? And understanding the timing and understanding all that stuff, and be super basic with that. But for me, it was a personal struggle. It was my rock bottom moment that set me on a course that led to the success. So 5 months before I launched my podcast, which was originally going to be completely an entrepreneurial podcast about business only. And it was for me to learn better about business, since I had 3 failed businesses at that point. But 5 months before, I got that phone call nobody wants to hear, and it was my sister calling saying, the doctor says you need to come.
Oh.
I was up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, actually recording the original intro to the podcast. And it was a 7.5-hour drive down to see my mom intubated. And that day she lost the battle to opioids. And it was in that moment that I realized that it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with how others view me. It has nothing to do with any of those things that I was told was success. What mattered was loving yourself through the journey of growth and discovery, and accentuating your purpose. And, when I saw my mom intubated in that bed, and I said to her, I don't know what it looks like, but I promise you I'm going to make you proud. And I realized that part of that is sharing my journey and being heart-centered, and truly, understanding that the hardships that I went through were there for a reason for me. A great mentor of mine, Ed Milet, says, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And I got out of this victim mindset, and I realized that these things that I went through in my life, which kind of ended with my mom passing away, was all learning processes for me to help guide other people through their hard times, to understand that my rock bottom moment isn't the end, it's actually the beginning. We have to understand those moments where we feel sad and depressed and lonely and failures and all these other things is that's the trampoline that's going to catapult us to great successes. But we have to understand that first and truly believe in that. And I think for me, it was that moment, and what I would call a personal loss or failure, when she passed away, to say, look, we all have a purpose, and we have to understand the vehicle to help us spread that purpose. And at the end of the day, a lot of times when you're on the right path and you're following your dreams and all those things, it's going to create a business around it. I'm an accidental entrepreneur, man. Like, the business I've built is solely based off of the fact that I'm very passionate about what I do. And I'm really happy to be where I am today. It just happened with the lowest moment of my life.
It's so true, because sometimes the greatest businesses happen out of pure accidental circumstances. And it's the big question that people ask is, how did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? And I still get asked that, and I can't conceptually explain how I did it, because I was so in the moment, and I wasn't thinking about anything more than what was right in front of me. I wasn't thinking about turning what I was doing onto LinkedIn into a business, and then a book, and then speaking. It was never, it's just kind of transcended into that, just like you and your journey. And, first I just have to, honor you, and I appreciate you and being so vulnerable. It's one of the greatest strengths that we possess. And a lot of people, that really are open in sharing that vulnerability. It's so powerful. So thank you for that, number one. And number two, what would you say, there's a lot of people that listen to this that are at different stages in entrepreneurship. They've just begun. That, whether it's, again, people hear me all the time, I don't care what vehicle of entrepreneurship you're in, whether it's an Etsy store or Shopify or network marketing or coaching or podcasting. It's a different vehicle, but the journey is much the same. For that person that's listening to this, that is having a tough time, they're struggling, they're losing that head of steam that they once had in the beginning. What's your best advice to that person to keep that spark and that fire burning no matter what is thrown at them?
Yeah, a lot of times it's in the moment, right? It's a pattern interrupt. What can I do in my life right now to reinvigorate, to resurge, to put a little bit more growth or effort into what I'm doing? For me, I'm lucky enough that I surround myself with amazing people, right? People that are beyond financially successful, people that are beyond relationships successful, all these things, so they can be my constant barometer. You know, we all have these regulating systems in our body, and it's telling us that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, our business isn't going to be successful because I can't figure out whatever's happening in this moment early on. And we have to find a way to break through that. And for me, it's through pattern interrupts. And it could be as simple as this. And this is probably tips people don't get as entrepreneurs very often. A pattern interrupt could be for me to go, okay, everything's falling apart. Who the hell knows if I'm going to pay my bills next month? I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm doing this weekend? I'm going out with a bunch of buddies or my girlfriend or my loved ones, and we're having a great time. And I'm getting my mind off of this, because when we're stuck in the thought processes, when we're stuck in the business then controls us. And so for me, I pattern interrupt, and that's one of the ways. I mean, there's so many other ways too, but if we can do that, we remove ourselves from the clutter and the craziness of what's going on in our life, it allows us to then sit back down. We're in a happier state. When you bring happiness to what it is you're building, dude, people flock to it, man. Like, happiness is so freaking contagious. But if you're feeling unhappy, what can you do right now in this moment to make yourself happy? And I'm not talking about make your business better. I'm talking about make yourself happy. And that's where I'm at with like the pattern interrupts. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's one of those things that Earl Nightingale says, what you focus on is what you become. So if you think entrepreneurship is a straight line, you're absolutely fooling yourself. It's, Darren Hardy wrote the book, The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, for a reason, because it is up and down, loops, and nothing is ever from point A to point B. There's always going to be roadblocks. There's always going to be U-turns and detours that you have to take. And, sometimes it is taking that pattern interrupt, whether it's getting a massage or just going and taking a walk or going for a jog or getting a workout or going out to a dinner with whatever it is, spending time with loved ones. Because again, if you're so involved in that 6 inches between your ears and you're just replaying those tapes that I suck, I'm not good enough, things are failing, it's never going to work, you're reinforcing a feeling. And you know what? If you continue to reinforce it, you are going to manifest that shit into your life. So you choose what you can manifest. So being with that, you've had very, various ups and downs in different businesses. So through everything that you've been through, what would you say is the biggest and greatest lesson that you've learned about yourself personally that the 16 or 17-year-old self did not know, but you know now?
Whoa, man. I want to steal that question. That's so good, because there's so much, man. There's so much. I mean, from a business standpoint, I mean, if we're talking strictly business, I would say that money is impossible to make and incredibly easy to make all at the same time. And it is what you make of it, right? So I would say 17-year-old Justin thought he was going to be a millionaire by the time he was 25. That didn't happen. And that's where you kind of learn that, wow, money's really hard to make. But then once you start to flow and everything falls into line, it becomes really easy because you're loving what you do. Not that it's actually easy. Like, I can go, hey, here's a cat, pay me $10,000 for it, right? But it's easy because you're loving what you're doing. And I also realized too, I mean, loving what you're doing is beyond more important than not making any money. Dude, if I was doing what I'm doing now and I was making $25,000 a year, I'd be happy. Like, cause I love what I do. But yeah, I mean, I think that was the biggest lesson as far as from a business standpoint, that like, look, money can be very, very difficult to make, and it can be very, very easy to make. And the choice is up to you to figure out the vehicle you're going to take to make that dollar.
So loving what you do is so important because it becomes a get to instead of a have to.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that like they have to get up and they have to go to a job and they have to earn that paycheck. And I can proudly say, and I know you can proudly say, is that we get to get up every single day and we get to do exactly what we love to do every single day. This is such a loaded question. And, there's a lot of people that are in different places in their business when they're listening to this. How can someone move themselves from the have to the get to? And, you and I both know that the compounded effect has something to do with it. Your circle of influences has something to do with it. You know, you're not, like you said, you're not going to make $1 million in 2 years. I mean, some people do, but
Yeah.
it's just, it's not likely going to happen. You got to really work at this. So for that person that's building that side hustle, that dream business on the side, and that's their get to, and they're still having to go to their have to, that 9 to 5. And the greatest piece of advice I ever got was from my friend Tiffany. And the way that she worded this, she said, and I want your take on this. She said, instead of thinking about your 9 to 5 as a have to, think about that 9 to 5 as your investors.
Mm.
Your 9 to 5 and the person that you're working for is your investor that you can then funnel that money into your get to that eventually can outproduce the have to, so you get to do what you want to do every day. What's your thought on that? And how can people start shifting their mindset of really acknowledging and honoring their 9 to 5 and what it can actually allow them to do with the get to that they want to?
Yeah, dude, that's a great question. And I love the way she prefaced that, because that's what it is. And that's what it was for me. I did the podcast on the side for 1.5 years when I worked in medical sales. And the medical sales funded my passion to speak at podcast events and do podcasts and then start to build clients on the side. But I think the real thing is, like, you have to continuously move that needle every single day on the other side, right? And so I would ask yourself this question at the end of every single day. I know going to my 9 to 5, I'm fueling that person's passion. I'm fueling whoever owns that business. I'm fueling what it is they grew up to do. That's what they're living, and hopefully they love it. And I'm fueling that. What did I do today to fuel mine? And so you have to constantly keep yourself in check every single day. I live in a world of 1%. And what I mean by that is I make sure that I move the needle in my life, whether in some way, shape, or form of my life, whether it's my relationships or my business or whatever, 1%, right? So how easy is that? Yesterday you did 10 push-ups. Today you do 11. Today you decided to reach out to 10 people because that's what you're fueling your passion to. You're trying to build on the side. Tomorrow you reach out to 11, right? And so I live in a world of 1% to continuously improve what I'm doing 1% every single day. And then at the compound effect of that 1%, you will be forced to leave your job. Now, there's an asterisk to this. I don't believe in the jump without a net. The people who tell you that advice, it's because they've been so secure in their life for so long that they forgot how terrifying it was that they might not make rent. So I do believe in building it on the side and then jumping once there's a net. But that net, you're not so sure it's secure. And you're never going to make that net secure enough while you still have that safety there, right? But you're going to have to do it. And the way you know when it's time is to have mentors and coaches and people guiding you along the way to say, it's time, it's time, it's time. And listen to that, because a lot of times when you are so secure in that day job, it's scary to jump. But you're going to have to cut the cord before you're 100% comfortable, because otherwise you'll keep making excuses for yourself to say 3 more months. Just 6 more months, just one more big close on your sales job or whatever, right? And so understand that you won't be 100% comfortable, but the compound effect and then jumping right before you feel totally comfortable, that's going to allow you to then do that full time.
I love what Jay Shetty says, and he says sometimes the best time to go all in when it's 75% put together, because the other 25% will work itself out as you jump in.
Yeah.
So you mentioned coaching, and this is something that you and I both believe in. We believe in masterminds. We believe in coaching. We believe in all of that. And there's a lot of people in network marketing. And for me, I feel very blessed because my upline, my enrolling sponsor, was heavy into personal development, but he was also heavy into investing into himself. And the first 60 days, he suggested I hire my first external coach outside of the company I was with, because I needed to learn some other things, because, the companies are great. They have great tools. They have great resources, but people only know what they know.
Yeah.
What would you say, and why would you say, is it important for those network marketers? Because again, let's just erase the word network marketing. You are in entrepreneurship. How important is it for a successful entrepreneur, no matter what the vehicle is, to invest in themselves in someone else, whether it be a one-on-one coach or a mastermind.
It's non-negotiable. I mean, if you want success in your life, you have to invest in anything, outside your comfort zone. I'm really, really big on getting outside of your comfort zone. Again, talking about the barometer we have inside of our body. Even when it's people within our organization, like you talked about, you were forced to hire a coach outside of the organization you were with. You had to, because you reach a certain point and there's nothing else to learn. And so you have to go to that next level. You have to invest. You have to start to push yourself out of the comfort zone. I think it's a no-brainer for somebody to say, hey, look, I'm unsure of this. I need guidance, right? You're saying that in your life. Everybody says that in their life. So where do you go get it? Dude, I've had coaches in every part of my life. And I still do. I have business coaches. I've had spiritual coaches. I've had relationship coaches. Anything I wanted to improve in, I've had a coach, right? And so my one coach in that comfort zone of say it's the comfort zone of your company or your organization you're doing that business through, right? They're just living in that lane. We're people, man. There's a lot of shit going on the inside of us that we need to work out. And it could be somebody coming in and saying, look, I'm going to coach you in self-development, or I'm going to coach you in spirituality, or whatever you're trying to get better at. You need to dive into that because we're complex individuals and we have to grow in all areas because we're only as good as our weakest link. Dude, like my business didn't really start taking off until my relationships started taking off. It's so true. Like my business didn't start taking off until I realized where my spirituality connected and where this energy is coming from and all these things, like all important. It is all in line. So you have to raise up in all areas in order to continue to succeed.
I think the other big thing is that, I get this question all the time. When people are deciding to work with me, they ask me two questions. Am I guaranteed results? And what's my ROI? And my simple response to them is that I am not responsible for your success. You're responsible for your success. What I'm responsible for is building out the infrastructure and the system that I have built for you and your business. What you choose to do with it and how far you choose to take it is completely on you, because again, this refacilitated thought of finger pointing, blaming others, when in all reality, if you look at the most relatable aspect of those equations, what's the common denominator in most of those equations? It's that individual. It's you. Right. You're the problem. It's not the coach you hired. It's not the system that you did or did not use. It's you. So for that person that is afraid to invest, because you and I both know money is a very, very touchy subject with a lot of people. So like you said, there is a spiritual side to all of us. There is a business side to all of us. There's a relationship side to all of us. But what people don't understand, money mindset is a whole other ballgame. Your relationship with money, how you view money, how you see money, how money makes you feel will determine where you're going to go. So how important is money mindset, even if you don't have it? How important is having a good money mindset for your entrepreneurial future?
So I'm going to tell you a story, actually. So I got invited to speak at an event. I had just been fired from a job, but I was going down to speak about podcasting. The podcast was doing great. My business on the side was not doing great. They weren't paying me to speak. They weren't paying me to get there. I had to fly myself there. I decided I needed to be there. I didn't know how I was going to afford the plane ticket, let alone the hotel, let alone the things that happen while you're at an event. So I get down there, I speak at this event, meet myself and the other speakers who are all very, very successful financially, go out for a drink. And I was like, all right, I'll go. It's important to be in the room. So this one guy, actually, his name's Mike Kim. I recommend you know him. He's amazing. I'll introduce you guys. He's amazing. He orders a scotch, and it was Glenlivet 20. And he goes, well, how much? She goes, a single or a double? He goes, well, what's the price difference? She goes, well, it's 40 for a single, 65 for a double. And he goes, all of a double. They go around the table, and every single person at the table orders a double. I go, I'll do the same thing. Terrified, going, $65. I have like nothing. This is terrifying. But I went, I'll have another, or I'll have one. The waitress comes back. She goes, cool. Are you guys all set? Mike Kim goes, no, I'll have another. They go around the table. Every single person orders a second drink. And I go, I'll have another two. So here I am sitting there, it's a $130 bill now. And I'm going, I don't know how I'm going to afford this. Like, I'm terrified right now. And I hope my credit card goes through in front of these people, because that would be embarrassing. Right. That's where I was at. Mike Kim ended up paying for everybody's drinks, but that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is you have to live in abundance for that success. Because what I didn't share telling you that story was, during that time, Mike Kim said something that completely shifted my business, and I made $40,000 in the next month and a half because of that conversation. Yes, it was only $160 when we look at it now, but it was the most important mindset shift in my world. Was I must live in abundance in order to be at the table I need to be at in order to take my life to the next level. If I decided that I couldn't afford to speak there, or I couldn't go out for drinks and I was going to sit in my room, if I decided all those things because I financially couldn't afford it, I'm putting up quote signs because you can't see me. If I financially couldn't afford it, my life would be drastically different and I would still have a day job. I really believe that. So you have to live in abundance at all times in order for money to flow through you. Money just happens, man. The second I say yes to spending more money than I'm comfortable spending, all of a sudden checks show up. Like, I'm not shitting you right now. Like, I just said yes to something that I'm unsure if I can afford, and there's a check sitting right here that just came in the mail. Like, I don't make this stuff up. It's crazy. Now that it was something that was built upon and it was just closed after I said yes to this other thing. But the money mindset is, money is made and it flows and it is everywhere. Why can't you have it, right? Why can't it be yours? But you have to invest in yourself first in order to then earn that check.
It's the law of reciprocation. And there are so many people that are putting what I call money dams up. You put this money dam up, money can't flow out and money can't flow in. And that's what people are looking for. Well, if I'm going to hand over this money, what am I going to get back? You don't know what's going to come back. When I invested in Chris Harder's elite level mastermind last year, that was a down payment on a house.
Right.
And I'm still able to buy my house this week. So, but that investment in that mastermind put me in a room with the people that I was seeking for. And I was looking for those people, because when you start putting yourself in a room or coaching with someone that's living expansively, that's doing bigger things, they're giving you the blueprint of how to succeed. And if you constantly put up those money blocks and those money dams, and you don't invest out so you can get back what you deserve, you're going to be in the same exact place. You change nothing, nothing changes. But if you change something, something changes. And that's the thing. I don't care if it's network marketing. I don't care that your company has great trainers and great trainings and they have a website and a distribution center. It's still you versus you. You still have to invest in yourself outside of that. Network marketing is your vehicle, but you are the reason why people say yes, and you are the business and you are the brand.
Yeah. And just to add that, like, look, I have people all the time that come to me and they hop on a phone call with me because they're interested in me coaching them, which I help people build their stories and their brands, and then they can get on stages and everything like that. And they come to me and I tell them the price and they go, I don't think I can afford that. We have the whole back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Say they say no. Guess where they are 6 months? Every single one of them that have said no, guess where they are 6 months from now?
Same place they were.
Same exact damn place.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that out of anger. I'm saying that out of love. That what you're guaranteed by saying no to the investment, you're guaranteeing yourself minimal to no movement in your life.
That's huge. Huge. Like, I could say the same thing. You know how many people, they hear the price of what I charge to teach them LinkedIn and how to grow their business and brand on there, and they're like, no. They never say they never say no. They say, I can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing. A year from now, guess where they are? Their business is in the same place or even backwards even more. And here's the thing. They always say, well, let me reach out at a different time. It's not the right time. There's going to be a more perfect time. Give me a month. And you think life waits for you.
Yeah.
The minute something comes off of your plate, I guarantee you there's a load of mashed potatoes back on it in 2 seconds. Like, that's just the way that life works. Something comes off, something comes back on. There's no better time than right now. And sometimes you have to invest when you don't have the money, when you can't see it, and when it's not happening, so you can make it happen for yourself. Because again, you make that investment now, 6 to 12 months, if you do the work, we both can guarantee everything will be different because you've made that investment in someone else, but for yourself.
Yep.
So I really feel we can continue talking up and down, and that's why I loved that we connected. And I really suggest people, my fiance and I have been listening to your podcast because, you've had some incredible people, Gabby Bernstein and Dean Grazioni and all of these amazing individuals. So before we get to my final question, who's been outside of the big names? And this is what I remember I asked this question to Lewis Howes when he was at an event that Chris had. And I'll ask you this. You've literally interviewed some of the most beautiful minds in entrepreneurship. Who was the most unexpected, inspired interview you've done? And what did you take away from them?
Oh, man. That's such a great question. I've had so many. I mean, I've had so many people on the show, and if I'm thinking like outside of the bigger names, she's a bigger name, but most people A, wouldn't know who she is, and B, it was very, very unexpectedly inspiring to me. Her name is Lillian Garcia. She was the ring announcer for Monday Night Raw for 15 years. She's a podcaster herself. So if you're in the niche market of wrestling, you know who she is. Otherwise, you don't know who she is 9 times out of 10. She told a story and she told a story about the first time she ever did Monday Night Raw ring announcing and how it was introduced to her. And they essentially were like, oh, yeah, you're going out there tonight. And Raw was starting in 5 minutes. And she had no idea what she was talking about. She had just walked through the WWE doors. She didn't know any of the wrestlers' names, their weights, their heights. And she was replacing Howard Finkel, who's a WWE Hall of Famer. And she went out there and she messed up and she was terrified and all of these things. But this led to a 15-year career. And I realized, going back to my story with Mike Kim and those other people at that table, I realized that showing up, even when we're terrified, good things are going to happen. But you have to show up. She could have easily turned around and walked back out that door because Howard Finkel was in the building. She didn't have to replace him that night. But she showed up and she went down there and she did it anyway. And you have to face your fears and you have to understand that growth only happens in those moments. And it was just super inspiring to me because I didn't realize that side of the story and I didn't understand a lot of the other things she had been through too. So I would say her, but there are countless people. The guy over my shoulder with the beard right here, Chuck Balsamo, has been on 3 times. Didn't expect that. Just amazing things. And I've been really, really blessed to be able to learn from and connect with the incredible people that have been on my show. And just blessed that I get to call a lot of them friends, and the fact that I can text Dean Graziosi and Gabby Bernstein on a regular basis and they reply in 5 minutes. Like, that's mind blowing to me because I'm just some dude who decided to show up. And so I encourage anybody, like, look, if you never hear from me again, if we don't connect after this, whatever, just show up and see what happens. Because if you're sitting on the bench the whole time, you're not going anywhere.
Exactly. I love that. So how can people learn more about you, how you help people on social, but also your podcast so they can start really, listening to an amazing podcast, not just by the people that you have on, but how you show up on there?
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, they can just go find my podcast wherever they're listening to this right now. They can go search Growth Now Movement and check it out, subscribe and see the guests on there. And then one other thing I'll throw out, I do host a yearly event for entrepreneurs and forward thinkers. That website is gnmlive.com. Incredible lineup. I won't go into more than that, but those are really the 2 best places, gnmlive.com and then the podcast Growth Now Movement.
Love it. Final question, and this is something a few months back you asked me, and I'm going to return the favor. Justin, what does success truly mean to you?
Yeah, it's very similar to your answer, actually. It's being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it and be happy while I'm doing it. And I know that sounds so cliche and out there, but it's something for so long that I watched both my parents not be able to do. And then something that I wasn't able to do for a really, really long time. I'm not one of those entrepreneurs that works sun up to sundown every single day. I built my life first, and then my business was built around it. And to live the life that I want to live all the time, that's all that matters to me. That is success.
I love that. Brother, so grateful for you and the collaborations that we've been able to do so far. And More so, thank you for just being vulnerable and showing up here and blessing my audience with your wisdom and your love and all of these tangible takeaways. So thank you so much for being here.
Scott, thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. So guys, please enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, like, subscribe, leave your comments on social. Let us know what you thought, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.